So, hello and welcome to the Dharma Life podcast. I'm your host, Aloise Surfleet Middleton. And today I have with me somebody who's very dear to me, somebody who's been in my life for probably about 20 odd years. And they've always been in the background, supporting, serving, helping me, always believing in me, always looking after me. Nothing is too much trouble. He is a digital business coach, a digital rapport podcast host, and a catalyst for helping experts make impact. JT, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, welcome, Oka. Thank you for having me on your podcast, Aloise.
Well, you've helped me in so many ways. You've been behind the scenes helping me with my course production, with my websites, with my emails, with anything I've done to scale, and you've always been there for me. So I can't believe I've never had you on the podcast.
Yeah, it's just, you come to these things when you're ready for them, aren't you?
Well, this is it. This is it. And you are one of the most spiritual people that I know.
Oh, thank you.
Whenever we talk, we have nice, in-depth, long, lengthy conversations about putting the world to rights. And I really enjoy our conversations. And I'm really looking forward to this podcast. So, JT, you know about the Dharma Life podcast, but just for our audience's sake, basically, we talk about the person's dharmic path. We talk
Mm.
about them doing their spiritual evolutionary work. We talk about the person basically doing their Dharma. So I'd really love to hear, because I know you've been conscious and awake from a young age. I'd really love to hear your story. So you were telling me that a teacher really made an impact on you. So I didn't wake up until my mid-20s, but it sounds to me like you pretty much awake from being quite a young child.
So I was probably around 12, 13 years old. And when I was at school, if you recall, the teachers put like on assemblies. Can't remember if it was on a Monday morning or a Friday or something. And the teacher put an assembly, put it together, and started to talk about gratitude. Started to talk about being thankful for the things that we have in life. And for some reason, that particular sharing of what he said really resonated with me. And I sat there listening to what he was saying. You know, he was talking about how fortunate we are with the things we have in life, and how, you know, as kids, we go home and the food's been laid out for us on the table, but we never thought where that came from or what our parents did to get that. And, people around the world who may not have the resources that we do. And I just sat there thinking, like, wow, I've never thought about that before. And what he said was, anything you do, what's the harm in being grateful for it? Like just saying thank you. Like, you got something. Be thankful to the universe. You got it. You're about to eat some food. Just like do a little prayer over it to say thank you for this food kind of thing. And it was those kind of little things that he said. And as I sat there, I went, that's interesting. And it hit me hard. I don't know why. Like why it resonated with me so much. So I took on board the idea. So I remember myself and a friend actually started this off. We spoke about it, thinking, yeah, we should be thankful for everything we have. So we used to go to the lunch table, sit down, do a little prayer over the food kind of thing. And we actually visually, like, we were doing this, and he carried on as well. But shortly after this, we started to notice that other people started to tease us, right? To start to take the mick. Oh, look at what these guys are doing and all this kind of thing. And he stopped, like after a couple of days of doing this, he kind of stopped doing it. I was like, well, this don't make sense. Like, why are people taking the mick for? Like, what's going on here? So I remember having a conversation with my dad, and I said, Dad, you know what this guy said, that we should be thankful for what we have. And I've started to do this, I pray over the food kind of thing. I'm a kid, 13 years old at the time, 12, 13, right? And he said to me, he said, people don't need to know that you're thankful. You don't have to show it. You could just internally just say thank you for the food before you stop. And I said, okay, cool. So that's what I started to do. So I started to just internalize it just before I started to eat food, be grateful for it and thankful. And that's how things started to kick off for me, because that moment was like when I started to first really be grateful for the things I had. And as a youngster, I thought I'd be thankful. And then that went to the next stage, in the sense that, in like the Sikh philosophy, we have a mantra which we use quite a bit, which is Waheguru, which is like, wow, wonderful, great Lord kind of thing. And it's a constant, like everyone in the community, everyone kind of chants it whenever they have a moment. So before I used to go to sleep, I started to chant it, just for however long I could, and just start to get into it. And I think when you start to tap into these things and when you're grateful for it, you start to get like divine downloads. You start to connect and align with the universe and what's going on. So I think slowly, that thing just led me to being more and more grateful. And that was the first kind of moment I really remember when I started to appreciate life, which changed the way I had attitude towards life.
That's very conscious.
Yeah.
That's very young, really, to be on the spiritual path and to be awake and to be. I suppose it's like gratitude. The attitude of gratitude effectively puts you in a high vibrational state.
Yeah.
Basically, it's almost like a spiritual mantra in itself, isn't it? So it's almost like praying in itself. So it raises your vibration. I just got nice goosebumps on my skin then when I said that. So you think at a kind of young age you were tapping into your spirituality?
Yeah, because they say that things don't make sense until you look backwards. So many years later, I started to come across Dr. Demartini's work, for example, where he said, the more grateful you are, the more you have things to be grateful for. Right. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I never knew that at a young age, but I could see that playing out because looking back at it, thinking, all right, there's something here, So I think gratitude was one of the things. And then later on, I discovered that even in like the Sikh ethos, they say shukrana. They call it in Punjabi, we call it shukrana, to be grateful for the things you do have, So I suppose it's like a, internal inspiration, because something from within awoke that day. And I don't know what it was. It was just like, I started to be consciously aware of that, if that makes sense.
That's fantastic. So talk us through the kind of epiphanies you've had on the spiritual path. So you said that gratitude made a real impact on your life, and having an attitude of gratitude was something that was really important to you as a youngster, even if it made people tease you.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. What would happen is I've seen it now in the sense that I'll give you an example, but go to future and go back in the past again. Like one of my clients is a yoga teacher, and I went to one of her events. And when I went to the event, I saw her kids. She got like a son and a daughter, and they were probably a similar 12, 13 years, maybe something like that. And I saw them sitting there on the mat, meditating, like doing the yoga and stuff like that. And they're just like, so there. And I'm looking back and reflecting, thinking, wow, like if you could get someone started at a young age, that will make a massive impact on them. They will start to bring them in, because now they've grown up there, and you can see that within them as well. So I can make some sort of connection there to say, well, if you can start people young to get them to just internalize and reflect on things. Now go back in time. When I started to do that, I think I started to possibly develop like that intuition on doing things. So I started to follow my heart a lot more, So anything that I was doing, it was like, okay, do I really want to do this? Like, that's how I got into martial arts. There's some inner voice or something said Bruce Lee, tied into Bruce Lee kind of thinking, that led to martial arts, right? And just kept on following the things over time. So the martial arts, when I first got my job, the type of people I was connecting with, and that internal voice is what I started to listen to, and that feeling. And later on in life, I discovered that you have like brain thinking, which is left right thinking, right? And then you have heart thinking, which is your heart is almost like the intuition side of things. The brain is obviously got conscious, it's got left right thinking, logic and rational and logic, and then emotion and art. Whereas the heart is not bound by anything. So it's got no parameters. Do you know what I mean? Whereas your brain can stop you because you'll start to use logic and irration and all this kind of thing. And whereas your heart is like, it's just got feeling based. And I think that feeling based is what led me to do certain things in life. I remember when I had finished university, I did something called emotional intelligence. Actually, I did IT, information systems, at university, right? And my dissertation was on emotional intelligence. And at the time, I didn't know what that was. And I basically, doing IT, thought it was going to be like artificial intelligence or something, but it wasn't though. Your audience probably all knows probably what emotional intelligence is. And I basically started studying that and made a psychometric test, which is used to assess people's emotional intelligence. And as I got more into that, I started to discover more about the brain and how it works, and how to use the emotion to kind of feel things in life and use the emotions to, grow in whatever you do. And I remember I was sitting in a workshop with a lady called Janet Schwitzer. And she's the marketing brains behind people like Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Les Brown in the States. She came down to the UK and she was doing a workshop, and the room was full of coaches and things like that, because I was at a crossroad in my life thinking, do I want to go into a coaching kind of arena, or do I want to keep with my IT? And as I sat there listening to her and she's sharing her ideas and philosophies and stuff, I just had this penny drop moment. Just something just sank and said, well, you don't have to do either. Why don't you do both?
Yeah.
You know, it's like an internal voice just said, why don't you just do both? Take your passion for personal development, combine it with technology, and serve this industry. And I sat there thinking, I can do that? Like, most of the time you're taught to do one thing or the other, right?
Yeah.
But this third element came out that just said, why don't you just combine the two, like bridge it and start to do that? So I thought, right, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to serve this industry. So I'm going to start to work with coaches, consultants, and authors to help them basically get their message out there, because I love the industry so much. And literally like 2 weeks later, I came across my first client in this space here. And what was funny was I didn't even organize that meeting. One of my other clients' mother got in touch and said, you have to come and see this guy. And I don't even know her mom. Like, I don't even know who this person is. I don't even know who this coach was. And I just thought, okay, I got people organizing these things for me. So I just went down there, met this person. The first thing I said to them was, your website's rubbish, because it just came out, right? And he said, Jatinder, me and you have to work together. So it was just like following this kind of internal dialogue that led me to that, you know?
So do you think that was your higher self talking to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's like sometimes you tune in and it's a feeling. It's like literally around here, you get that kind of feeling, right? And I'm listening to that feeling, like what's going on here versus what's going on here. And later on in life, I discovered that you have this thing in Punjabi, they call it a manamuk and a gurmukh, right? And a manamuk is one of the mind, person of the mind, and a gurmukh is a person of the heart, right? So they say to be a gurmukh to listen to your heart versus listening to what's going on up here.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You know, so happening to like being able to tap into that. Yeah, exactly. So listening to the heart and tuning into that was what led me to say, okay, I'm gonna explore this path and avenue. And like you said, it's like an internal voice, right? It doesn't come from the sides, because you know when you start to study the mind and how it's layered, like in NLP, one of the things they talk about is you know when internal dialogue. But when you have internal dialogue, where's it coming from? Like some people hear voices like to the side of the head or in front of them, because it might be an imprint from a experience they had. But when you start to tap into whatever that is, it's kind of centralized. It comes from the center. You know, it's like alignment.
Love it. Love it. And I think that's what we have to learn to listen to, isn't it? We have to learn to listen to our higher self, our inner sat nav, our inner CEO. We have to make sure that we are basically tuning in to that highest aspect of ourselves and following that path. And it sounds to me that you took the path of the heart, because obviously you were doing what you loved. You could combine it, and that's when we talk about Dharma. Basically, we are taught to do the things that we are passionate about in service to other people, but using our unique gifts and talents. So it sounds to me that you totally are walking the Dharmic path, because realistically, what you're doing is using the thing or doing the things you're passionate about in personal development, the kind of being a catalyst for coaches and consultants, but you're also using your unique gifts and talents, which is obviously all of the digital rapport stuff. So it sounds to me like you're totally walking your spiritual path. Have you had moments where you've kind of had confirmation that this is the right path for you?
Absolutely. You know, like the universe tries to talk to you. We don't always hear it. Right. And sometimes I'm sure people can relate to this. Like you might just be sitting there and you got questions going on, and all of a sudden you hear a song and it's got something going on. Or you watch a TV, flicking through the TV channel, and that thing, whatever's going on in your mind, is being said. Or you have a conversation with someone and they mention a book. Right. And it's like, a mutual friend, Marilyn Devonish, she used to say, notice what you notice, and it's one of those kind of things where, in life, these things are kind of going on, but what are the bits that kind of stand out for some reason? And you're not always sure why, but you think, what's that? And it creates a curiosity around it. And it's like, explore that side versus that side and see what happens, So, yeah, definite.
Yeah, and I think the more, well, you meditate a lot, don't you? So I would think that that is the kind of catalyst for connecting you to your higher self. But like, obviously, I've done huge amounts of Akashic record work, which basically has led me to having a very strong connection to my higher self and my soul. But I know you meditate. You meditate every day. How many years have you meditated for?
So it started. It started when I said, like, when I was quite young, when that teacher mentioned that stuff, and just started to, before I go to sleep, was how it started. Around that same time, I also got into martial arts, right? So I was doing martial arts as well, and the sensei there used to teach us. And as I kind of progressed through that journey, he started to teach us techniques, like breathing techniques and stuff. The one time he got me was when he said, "You do 15 minutes of this, and it's worth like 1 hour's worth of sleep." And I thought, really? So that's possible. And I said, okay. So he taught a way to breathe, and that's what we used to do. Because with martial arts, it's all about breath work and how you punch people and how you take the punch, for example. So he shared that, and I just went on that. I thought, okay, if I do 15 minutes of this and it's worth like 1 hour, then I might as well just do it as much as I can. So that reinforced it, like you said, like it reinforced my thinking that this is what I should be doing. So from that young age, I started to just carved out time to do it, like in the morning, midday, at night time, right? And I just started to just focus in on trying to do that. And this is the greatest blessing, and the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is the greatest blessing, is that's what was gifted, to say meditate and sit on it, because those moments you have with yourself allow both your hemispheres to calm down and relax, and that's what can help you kind of tune in to your inner dialogue, the inner voice. That's the higher self, or whatever that is that comes through, can happen when you get rid of the kind of noise and distractions and the interference, basically. So yeah, so been doing it for young age, been blessed to do it from a young age, and I'm so grateful for that. And take everything else, but don't take that. That's the kind of thing, that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, would you say you do an hour a day, and you've done it for sort of 20 odd years, or?
So it's about so when I started, it was pretty much like allocate about 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, and then whatever I could do at night time, and that just stayed a constant for a very, very long time. So now it's like, over time, when you get used to it, when you start to meditate, you could get there quicker. And it just allows you to just, I could do 10 minutes and I'll just be at the same state as I was if I do it for a period of time, kind of thing. So I say allocate some time, definitely put some time in, and just do it on a regular basis,
So you'd recommend it to our listeners?
Absolutely.
What other benefits do you see from meditation?
I think, all right, so most of the problems and issues I think we have is because of excess energy that we use by just thinking, right? I've got to do this, I've got to get this done, and this is happening, there's so much noise that's going on up here that you're constantly just elevating your kind of stress levels, and that stress level is using up a lot of energy, right? Whereas when you meditate, you're calming everything down. You're calming it from your breath to your blood work to everything, just calms down and relaxes. And when you're in that relaxed state, healing can happen in many ways as well. So the whole point of meditation is to almost reset and get back into a present state. So one of the other things that has reinforced that is, like, when I started my podcast, the Digital Rapport Podcast, I was set out to interview experts about the concept of rapport. What is it? How does it work? Kind of thing. And the common thing that comes up all the time is being present, right? And over this whole kind of journey, I've realized that the more present you can be, the more powerful state you'll be in for anything you're doing, whether it's people. So if you're in a conversation, the more present you are with the person you're talking to, the deeper the connection. The more present you are in sitting in the meditation, the deeper your meditation, the deeper the connection with yourself, right? Because you can lie to the world, but if you're lying to yourself, that's a whole different conversation. So the meditation state, just being that state, allows you to kind of get rid of the stuff that's not needed, and just really get to your core. And that just happens just through stillness. because it's just one of those things. Just sit, just relax. If thoughts come up, people say, "Oh, I can't empty my mind." That's it. The point is not to empty your mind, because you try to do it, you won't be able to do it. All right. The idea is to harmonize and be present in the moment. So that means things around you are always going to be moving. Things around you are always going on. Right. There's this once I was in the workplace. So when I used to work in corporate, I was sitting in the office, right, and we're just typing away. All of a sudden, it just went quiet. It just boom, right? And I thought, what on earth is going on here? Like I freaked out because it just went quiet. I looked over the table. I said, "Have you? Is there like nobody in the room? Like, what's going on?" I looked up, and everybody's still sitting where they were. Yeah, and I got up. I walked to the other side of the room to look across the room, and people were still there. Like everybody was still there. I thought, why is it so quiet? Like, what's going on? And in that moment, I started to listen and just be present to it, and I realized that the noise was in my head. It had nothing to do with anyone else. Wow. So when that noise in my head calmed down, like, you know, when you sit there and you're in a coffee shop and you got the buzz and the noise, and you kind of like, in your mind you might be thinking, or even subconsciously thinking, oh, that's that person, there's a conversation going on with that person, for example, or there's some tapping on, and you got all these like avatars and conversations going on in your mind. But in that moment, it just calmed down, it just went whoosh, right? And I could hear what was going on around me. So I can hear the person tapping away on the computer, for example. I could, whereas I couldn't hear the dialogue in my head before. I was almost like having internal conversations with them. So that moment just went quiet. And then it happened again when I was walking down central London. I was walking down central London, right? And same thing. It just went quiet, but I could still hear things around me. And I thought, what's going on here? And I realized that all the noise and all the stuff that was going on is internal. It's all going on inside me. It's me, the way I'm processing information. But if I get present and I just hear the noises for what they are, the bus going down the road, the person having a conversation, you could start to, it's almost like I was like breaking up the different sounds versus everything happening in one go, right? So there was a sense of peace in the noise, which is really weird.
Yeah, that's very strange.
Yeah, so that was. Sorry?
What do you think caused that?
I think it was just deeper states of understanding how the mind works. Because around that time, I'd been studying personal development stuff, so I'd been going to hypnosis courses, NLPs, like absorbing it all, going in like how do I function? Why do I think the way I think, and all these kind of things. And when I started to realize, I think one of the moments was when I did some NLP training was when they talked about submodalities and different ways, like auditory, visual, kinesthetic kind of behaviors, the way the brain functions and processes information. Before that point, everything was going on at the same time. After that point, I realized, hang on, I'm being auditory. I'm talking to myself. This is sound based. You know, I'm being visual. I'm creating images in my mind. I can see. I'm being feeling based. I started to create like these distinctions between the different things going on in my head. And I think it just got to a stage where the brain just went, oh, that's external, this is internal. And when that happened, that moment of presence, it just felt quiet, even though there was stuff going on around me. You know? So it's a weird one to explain, but it was the moment I realized that I'm the one who's creating the stuff going on in my head. And it's got nothing to do with anyone else. It's just me there. Whatever I've perceived, I'm projecting and all that kind of stuff. Whereas if you get present, you just hear what things are, like sound-wise, you just hear what's around you. Feeling-wise, you just feel like if you're sitting down and you get present to the chair and the pressure of the seat on your bum, for example, you're sitting there, right? and you now your attention shifted, right? And then you're sitting here and you're just listening, for example. But what about the external sounds that are going on? They're still there, but you just tuned into what you're tuned into. And the sensation of the air on your arms, for example, all that kind of thing. So it's like almost like segmenting these different things, so you can distinguish that that's kind of external, this is internal. Not everything's happening all in once, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think we can have altered states, can't we? When we go through life, we can have certain things. Like I remember having a very altered state at one stage in my life when I was doing the network and the ATL. Mm-hmm. I remember basically it was almost like I was being shown I was on the right path because everything slowed down, and I had this sort of euphoric feeling. And it lasted probably about 5 minutes. It was like this feeling of euphoria. And I couldn't explain it, and everything kind of went in slow motion and sort of slowed down, and just incredible altered state. And
Mm.
I think it was just my Kundalini awakening, because I was on the right path, going in the right direction. But it was a very strange altered state, and it sounds like you've had quite a few altered states in your life, which to me again is a good sign that we're on the right path, or in the right
Mm.
direction.
Yeah, yeah. Because you don't always know what's going on, right? Like, if you got a guide or someone who's been through it, they can kind of show you and tell you what's going on. But sometimes you discover things because you just discover them, or you come across it, and those are the things that make you wonder, like, what is this? How does this work? And I think that sense of curiosity is quite powerful as well. Just like something's going on, not to we can make meanings up. All of us are meaning making machines. We can put a meaning onto anything, but ask the question, like, what is this? Like, what's going on? Right? And try to create some sort of disassociation with it to try to understand what's going on. And we don't always understand it. I remember one of my hypnosis friends. You remember Lee Bannister? You remember Lee Bannister?
Yes.
From ATL?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on one of his trainings, and I'm sitting there. I had a conversation with him, and so we were doing this exercise with the person in front, and they were experiencing something, and I go, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Like, I was quite, like, I didn't know what was going on, and I called Lee over and I said, "Lee, what's going on?" And he sat there and he looked at me and said, "Jitendra," he goes, "You know what's going on, but your conscious mind hasn't caught up with it, right?" And I went, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "I'll leave you to think on that one." So I thought, my conscious mind hasn't caught up with it. So subconsciously, like intuition, something's going on. But this thing up here, because it's logic and reason, emotion, all those kind of things that's going on, it's not processing that part of it yet. It's just still stuck in, like, what's going on? What's going on? If you're stuck in what's going on, you don't know what's going on, because that's your brain asking the question. Whereas you change the question and say, okay, what are they experiencing, for example? Now you think about it differently. So sometimes we could get stuck in, like, a way of thinking, and the detachment on the thinking can help you unlock loads of different things as well.
Yeah, nice, very nice. So I'm curious, your attitude of gratitude, which started as you're a young child, is that something you still foster now as an adult?
I think so. I think, when you do something, consistency over time makes you better at it. No matter what it is, even if it's a negative thing, the more you do it, the better you get at it, even if it's negative, right? So if you keep doing a negative thing, you'll get better at that negative thing, for example. If you keep doing a positive thing, you get better at it. So I think if you tune in and something works, that's how I like to think of things. It's not like whether it's good or bad as such, because that's kind of subjective sometimes, but obviously there's clarity in sometimes when you do things. But in life, when you're doing something or trying something, I think the better question is, does this work? Did this work or didn't it work? Yeah, what works and what doesn't work, and go that way instead, to say, okay, here's I'm trying yoga, for example, and you try the yoga and you say, did this work? Is this working for me? And if it is working, then you're on the path, right? It's because it's benefiting you. Whereas if it's not, then don't do that. Like, do more of what works. There's I remember doing some martial arts with Sifu Lakloy, and we were doing some training in his JKD class. And before, when I used to do martial arts, we used to, like, train the right side, or then switch over to train the left side. And he saw me doing this because of my previous martial arts. I was doing this. So I'm punching away with my right, jabbing kind of thing. And I swapped over, started doing with the left hand kind of thing. And he said, "Jitendra, why did you do that?" I said, "Oh, just to train the other side, right?" And he said, Bruce Lee used to say, make your strong side stronger. And I thought, oh, okay. So basically, whatever's working, make it stronger, make it better. And that's how I looked at it, and thinking, okay, how can I make this better? So make your strong side stronger.
Right. So it is something you still practice today.
Yes, absolutely. I think we call it mind power stuff, right? Like the mental work. That's a blessing. That's a kind of thing. And I'm blessed to be in contact with people like such as yourself who are doing this kind of stuff as well. The whole circle is like that. So it's good to connect in what we call in Punjabi, you call it Sangat. Sangat means your congregation, the people you hang around with, right? Because your Sangat will determine how you are as well, can influence you as well. So if you're hanging out with...
your net worth.
Exactly. You hang around with people not doing some great stuff, chances are they're going to rub off you. And the other side of it's true as well. If you hang out with people doing great stuff, you'll do great as well.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Oh, JT, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with us this afternoon. Really interesting to hear your insights and your wisdom, and the fact that you are on this spiritual path. We are walking this spiritual path together. Is it ways our listeners can find you?
Yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, just jatindapalahar.com. They can, or the Digital Rapport Podcast, check that out. But yeah, or just through you, just can contact you. It's fine.
Yeah,
Same thing.
We'll be on Instagram, so we'll connect everybody on Instagram. So
Yep.
there'll be your website and your Instagram online as well. So yeah. Brilliant.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. And hopefully something's been useful. Like Bruce Lee used to say, take what's useful, discard the rest, and whatever is useful, make it uniquely your own.
Lovely, beautiful. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We will see you next week with another amazing guest on the Dharma Life podcast.